Good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Qing. And if that's too hard, you can call me DQ. I'm here today to talk to you about something that's been bothering me for quite a while and is something that I don't quite have a solution for yet. And that is the fear of mediocrity. I'd like to describe this fear as the pressure to achieve something great, the need to feel like we need to change the world, and above all, the desire to be remembered. And when we don't achieve the said above, we crumble to this feeling of inferiority. Whether it may take form as unwanted criticisms from those around us, be cleverly disguised as celebrate achievements from those around us, or perhaps even be the devil of a voice in our own head, telling us that we aren't enough. It is this need to feel like we need to become someone great that consumes so many of us. Today, I will specifically talk about what it's like dating a certain overachieving academic prefect. Just kidding. But when we are in a community full of talented people, it's very easy to feel like we don't measure up. I don't know how many of you share these thoughts, but for me at least, sometimes it's just a little bit hard to feel like I'm worth anything at all when the people around me are somehow changing the world, and the only talent I appear to have is eating ice cream. But to my fellow visionaries out there, I want to let you know that in our conquest to find our place in the cosmos, perhaps all of us are equally lost. I cannot offer you any definite answer or the correct path to follow because, unfortunately, this is still something that I struggle with myself. But what I will say is that in the grand scheme of things, we are only a fifth into our lives, and we have plenty of time to figure things out. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about my story. For those of you that know me, I'd like to consider myself an artist. My journey in the arts began back in 5th grade when I first began lessons with my art teacher in Calgary. Upon entering the studio, I heard many rumors about a girl around my age named Emily. And she was described as someone that was infinitely talented in the arts. Partially due to her reputation, and partially due to my own imagination, at that point, she essentially achieved the status of a godsend in my mind. And so, when 7th grade rolled around, and my art teacher decided to formally train us together with the older students, I could hardly contain my excitement. I was finally going to get to meet my idol, and even now, I distinctly remember our first class together. I sat in a room with 6 or 7 teens that seemed like literal trees, and a girl with a bob cut about an entire head shorter than me. You can imagine my confusion then. I was supposed to start lessons with a girl around my age, and yet everyone in the room seemed to be either significantly older or significantly younger than me. I couldn't focus at all for the first half of that class because all I could think about was how Emily never showed up. But once we began drawing, I realized my mistake. This girl with the bob cut that looked 3 years younger than she actually was, drew like she was 3 years older than she was. Although back then, all I had to compare was technical ability, that in itself was enough to overwhelm me. But as Emily and I became close friends and evolved and grew together as artists, it soon became clear that her creativity was by no means lacking either. As of today, she has already established an online presence and published 2 illustration books. To say the least, she was, is, and probably will always be superior to me in the arts. And I'm sure we all have someone like that in our lives, someone that we look up to, whether we know them personally or not. And to be honest, sometimes it can kind of suck. Here at Appleby, I've been called talented in the visual arts numerous times, but I insist that this couldn't be further from the truth, because I grew up with a girl that could change the world with pen and paper alone, while I'm just a seed that's waiting to sprout. I don't believe that I put in any less effort either, because, you see, the thing is, I draw a lot. Like, a lot. Like 15 sketchbooks, 2 packaging boxes, and 18 gigabytes of data a lot. But Emily draws a lot too. And so what I came to realize is that both of us dedicated our leisurely childhoods to the arts and everything after that. But she just somehow seemed to get further with the same things. After all, the world only seems to reward prodigious people that work hard, not those that just work hard. And frustratingly enough, for the rest of us, as the disparity between those with and without talent increase, the rest of us feel like we will inevitably get left behind. Just like how the gap between Emily and my ability continued to grow despite my efforts to this day. But for those of you that think the same way as me, the gravest mistake we can make is giving up. The worst we can do to ourselves is surrender ourselves to this inherently unjust fact, because we would be giving up the only thing we have. We cannot stop persevering, because where talent builds walls, hard work can smash it. Beethoven and Mozart may have been geniuses in their own right, but Stravinsky actually achieved the same commercial success through rewriting and revising one of his pieces for 8 years. Some people may just be inherently better than us at certain things, and that's okay, because we can still achieve success through blood, sweat, and tears alone. Earlier, I mentioned exactly how much time and resources I've invested into improving my artistic ability. But actually, if you were to compare me to some professional artist that churns out sketchbooks at a monstrous rate of 1 per half a month, then I really don't measure up. In fact, to this day, my mindset on life is never think that you're working hard enough, because there's always someone that works harder. And I believe that it is with this mindset that I was able to push forward. Because even though we have no control over what we are given at the start, we certainly have control over where we can end up. So if you have a dream or an ambition, no matter how grand or small it may seem, hold on to it, cherish it, and fight for it. I cannot say for sure that it will pay off, but what I will say is that if we don't at least try, then nothing at all will happen. But there is also a fine line between dedicating yourself to a dream and allowing yourself to become consumed by it. It may be important to have an overarching goal in life, but as stated in The Great Gatsby, there is a price to be paid for living too long in one dream. Now, I don't mean this in the cynical way that all dreams will perish regardless of how much effort we put in. But what I do want to point out that trying to achieve success is actually only one factor in life. For some of us, it may be a skyscraper of a factor. But in the end, it still just is one factor. Sometimes, when we chase after our dreams, we forget about everything else. We forget about our previous achievements, our struggles, our health, and even our mental well-being. But most importantly, we forget about the people around us. We forget about the people that love us, even when our name isn't up in lights, even when we seem insignificant and helplessly small. Even when it's 1 a.m. and we're at our darkest hour, there are people that would sacrifice everything just to keep us safe. So regardless of how grand of a goal we may have, we absolutely cannot forget these people, because these relationships, quite literally, are the only place we will ever be able to find a true sense of belonging. So please, continue to dream and continue to do great things, but never leave behind those that have helped you along the way. Never forget those that love you out of the spotlight, because the happiness that they provide is far more valuable than any net worth anyone can ever hope to accumulate. And once that happens, maybe we'll be able to love ourselves a bit more. Maybe we'll come to realize that life doesn't have to be a race. Maybe we'll realize that the things that everyone has to offer are unique. And maybe then, we can come to appreciate our differences and embrace the fact that these insecurities are actually shared amongst us all. I want you to trust me when I say this, because whether it be math or science, humanities or art, athletics or music, we are all humbled by each other. Sure, maybe some of us are already doing research, performing at huge venues, winning competitions, etc., but these people are people all the same. And these people admire others all the same too. And this admiration isn't limited to achievements. We can respect another person for their kindness, for their courage, for their humility, or maybe even something like their smile. In fact, I can say with 100% confidence that everyone in this chapel looks up to another person in the same chapel. And I think that's pretty amazing. Right here, right now, we don't have to be individuals facing against the world, and we most certainly don't have to face our fears of mediocrity alone. Let's erase all our insecurities and embrace all of our fears. Class of 2018, let's face the world together. Please rise and sing hymn number 352.